Lost in the sauce of everything going on this past summer, well, maybe you didn't notice it because if you're like me, you barely ever go to the movies anymore. I actually think it's a combination platter that has led to this. But 2025, we now have the final numbers for the 2025 summer box office, and it was the single worst box office since 1981. 45 years. The worst box office in nearly 50 years. Do we think that's a coincidence? No. It is a perfect storm of years of woke trash, and I think a belt tightening by the American consumer, because quite frankly, taking your family to the movies shouldn't have, but did cost probably about $100 for your average American family. They priced themselves out, and they realized, and then the consumer realized that the product was no longer worth the fee. Here is the article. 2025 summer box office, worst since 1981. The far left New York Times will never admit why this is happening, but it did a report that the 2025 summer box office was the worst in 44 years. Quote, multiplexes in the United States and Canada had their worst summer since 1981 after adjusting for inflation and excluding the lockdown years. This was supposed to be the summer when North American box office returned to form, finally, from the lockdown slump. We believe that a dramatic reawakening of an industry-wide domestic box office has begun. Adam Aron, chief executive of AMC Entertainment, the continent's largest theater operator, gleefully told analysts in May he predicted that Hollywood summer movies would be barn burners, one right after another. Can you name two movies you went to the theater and saw this summer? I saw Weapons, which was okay. It was good because it was unique, but the ending kind of ruined it for me. But that's about it. What were the big movies this summer? Superman lost money. I can't, it was a mixed bag. I'm not going to say it was a bad movie, but no one cared enough. It was because they basically had destroyed any and all interest in seeing anything Hollywood put out. Survive till 25 was the Hollywood mantra, as though the appeal and quality of the product had nothing to do with the survival. Is it time for Hollywood to concede that they made a lot of moviegoers in North America that a lot of moviegoers are just simply never going back? Yeah, that's basically me. If there's a movie I absolutely positively really, really want to see, I'll try to support it by going to the theater. But I've got to admit, I've become apathetic because even movies that I really, really want to see end up sucking. Black Phone 2 was probably one of the biggest disappointments I've seen. It's probably the worst sequel since Ghostbusters 2. And I kind of like Ghostbusters 2. I know that it kind of jumps the shark and it can be cheesy at times, but I think it speaks to just how much I love Ghostbusters 1. Black Phone 2 came out, and I was like, that's the one movie I'm going to pay to see this summer. It was like a Temu Nightmare on Elm Street. It was nothing like the original Black Phone. It was a girl power film with cringy name calling. Absolute disappointment. Did nothing to build any kind of origin story for the grabber, which is one of the worst, scary movie guy names. This is very much what Blumhouse does. They make sequels on movies that never should have got a sequel, that had no business being made. But, I think the Black Phone still stands alone as a very, very good movie, I think. But, the one time I went, I got burned. Right? The one time I gave these dorks my money, I got burned. If streaming, yes, but for only one reason, which has nothing to do, is it time for Hollywood to concede that a lot of movies are not coming back? That movie theaters have permanently lost 20 to 25% of their customers, the Times asked. Yes, but for only one reason, which has nothing to do with lockdown streaming or the early release to home video market. And that single reason is appeal, which I agree with. If streaming in the theatrical window and the lockdowns caused the worst summer box office in 44 years, why did the summers of 2022, 2023, and 2024 produce better box office results? The Times does, in its very roundabout way, admit that part of the problem is quality, as in tired franchises that don't deliver like they once did. Superman, Jurassic Park, all things Marvel, etc. Let's face it, movies suck. So far, of all the movies released this year, I can only see myself bothering to watch F1. Yeah, that was widely seen as pretty good. Sinners, which I haven't seen it, but people say it was pretty good. And Weapons, again, I don't think Weapons has rewatchability because the ending got so cheesy, but it was a decent premise, poorly executed, but still cool because it was kind of unique. What does this tell you? Here are all the titles released in 1993 that I own on Blu-ray. Jurassic Park, The Fugitive, The Firm, Sleepless in Seattle, Indecent Proposal, The Line of Fire, Cliffhanger, A Few Good Men, Groundhog's Day, Dave, Cool Runnings, The Crying Game, Demolition Man, The Pelican Brief, Last Action Hero, Nightmare Before Christmas, The Good Son, Addams Family Values, What's Love Got to Do with It, Falling Down, Son-in-Law, Hard Target, The Sandlot, The Age of Innocence, Point of No Return, A Perfect World, Menace to Society, Loaded Weapon, Striking Distance, Benny and June, and Rudy. That's just in 1993. Back in 93, they also had the equivalent of streaming with 100 cable channels. We had big screen TVs, surround sound, video games, and our own movie collections. The box office sucks because movies suck. The movies suck because Hollywood sucks. Hollywood sucks because it's run by woke-tard Gestapo that hates their customers, hates the franchises they are in charge of, and spends too much time online instead of dreaming. 100% true. It's 100% true. I mean, just think back to the last... Look, I've been talking about Welcome to Derry. Welcome to Derry, I think, is the best new TV show in a long time. Landman, people say is pretty good. King of Tulsa say is pretty good. I think From is very good. But it's like more about picking out the peanuts and the turd these days than an era in which we had multiple bangers going on at the same time. Now it's like, oh my, it's like the good television is the exception and not the rule. And even there are people that like look at Welcome to Derry and are like, oh, it's woke. I mean, I don't think it's woke because the racism stuff is actually like period related. Like the time in which it's happening is just after the civil rights stuff. There is some racism stuff in the show, but it actually does mirror the books and what was going on in this country at that time. So, but I also understand why people are sensitive to that because we've been like force-fed that nonsense, force-fed, all this stuff for the last 10 years. It's easy to look at something that, from a time-specific period, you actually would have legitimate racism and think, hey, did they shoehorn this in? And to be honest, it's probably not unlikely that HBO looked at this and thought, wow, we get to also play up the racism stuff? Cool, and we'll really make this. But I think the visuals are incredible. The scares are incredible. There's one visual effect with eyes, and I'm not going to get too specific in episode 4, that will haunt me for a very, very long time. It's almost like, what is it, Squidward or like Mr. Krabs? I don't know. It's very, very creepy. But you have the left-wing media trying to cover up for it. Stitch, Superman, and a flock of creepy children drew audience to movie theaters this summer, but it wasn't enough to draw at the box office revenue past even dreary levels reached last year. Total theatrical haul for the summer, which is industry watchers, stretches from the first weekend of May through Labor Day, grossed $3.6 billion in the United States and Canada, down $1 million in 2024, according to ComScore. The numbers are even more sobering compared to 2023's Barbenheimer-fueled summer of $4 billion, a target the industry used to hit almost routinely. Through the season, though the season started with high hopes after spring hits, including Sinners and a Minecraft movie. Am I supposed to see Sinners? Is that good? I gotta be honest, I looked at it and I was like, oh, all black cast movie? Probably woke crap. Is it not woke crap? Is it actually good? Minecraft movie is obviously for kids. I have no interest in seeing that crap. And particularly since there were several big franchise blockbusters in the lineup, the softer summer shows cracks in the movie business that have been growing for years. Theaters have been grappling with the coup. That's a lie. Movies still make $1 billion. Oppenheimer and Barbie, I think, both made $1 billion, and they were out in the same week. All right. People will still go to the movies if the movies are good. Disney's live action adaptation of Lilo and Stitch was the heaviest hitter this summer with about $420 million in domestic box office and more than $1 billion globally. Going into the summer, many in the industry felt that the major effects of the lockdown and the dual writers and actor strikes in 2023 had finally evaporated from theatrical lineups. I don't think the lineup was very good. The planned release schedule and several franchises. Jurassic Park Rebirth, nobody cared about that. Superman, people have superhero movie fatigue, and people are worried about James Gunn. The Fantastic Four, no one cared about. The F1 movie, people liked. You know, but it's, you know, it's not a blockbuster. It's not gonna make $1 billion. You know, there weren't very many flops, but really just nobody cared. You know, and Netflix movies like K-pop Demon Hunters became cultural phenomenons after hitting #1 on the. I don't think people actually choose between streaming and going to the theater. I think if there's a good movie that people want to see, they'll go to the theater. That's how I am. It's just that there are fewer and fewer good movies worth seeing in the theater, and it's because Hollywood is essentially out of ideas. You know, it's just out of ideas. There's nothing left to talk about. Hollywood is more interested, mostly because of a budgetary standpoint. You know, they have these huge bloated budget movies, $200, $300, $400 million after advertising, and they won't take risks on movies that have small budgets and that may be great successes. So they just put out more and more garbage. Like, at least Weapons was a unique concept, but they'll probably say that was a box office fail. You know, so I just don't think there's any coming back. There's no coming back. You know, add to that the fact that it costs a family of four $100 to $125 to get, you know, for 4 tickets, some popcorn and 4 sodas and maybe a couple snacks. It used to be affordable to go to the movies. So they've priced themselves out, and then they've released an endless string of crap. The run is over, and I couldn't be happier about it. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you leave a like on it. If you haven't, please subscribe or follow down below, and we'll talk to you again real soon.